Good morning, everybody. Yes, thank you for joining us for our inaugural Fearless Global Initiative. There is so much significance in us holding this event. First, we are meeting while world leaders continue to meet at the UN General Assembly. I'll speak to that in a few minutes. But I also want to recognize where we stand right now at this moment in time. 2 weeks ago, we marked 1 year since the lawsuit against the Fearless Fund and Fearless Foundation was permanently dismissed. Okay, that was a clap moment. A little over 2 years ago, we had been sued by Edward Bloom, conservative legal strategist, a man who envisions a colorblind society. It always shocks people when I say, I actually share in his vision. I know you're like, what? But our difference lies in where we are at this moment. Because we are not colorblind, not here in the United States, not in Brazil, not in Africa. Edward Bloom's attempt to take the Fearless Fund down inspired us to rise. I made a vow the day the lawsuit was dismissed to continue to close gaps where they exist. Because economic freedom isn't charity. It is prosperity, it is justice. Today is a culmination of that promise. We are gathered to celebrate our strength in that moment, but more so to channel in what I like to call creating demographic equity. The results of this summit are for the 55% of Brazilians that identify as Black and receive less than 0.5% of venture capital funds. It's for the 80% South Africans that identify as Black and receive less than 1% of venture capital funds. It is for the 14% of Black Americans who receive less than 1% of venture capital funds. But I'm not here to simply talk. People who know me well, they know that I'm about action, to get things done and to deliver justice. What we intend to put before the United Nations right now is a petition. A roadmap, if you will, a blueprint for how nations can truly get done demographic equity. Drawing from W.E.B. Du Bois' appeal to the world nearly 80 years ago, we are calling on the nations of the world to redress the enduring economic harms of global colonialism. This was drafted and submitted on behalf of all the Africans all around the globe. Many of them who live in formerly colonized nations. No matter how long since empires have fallen, these communities still live with the repercussions of colonialism today. The legacy of colonialism lies in the 1.4 billion around the world that the World Bank identifies as unbanked. Many of these people live in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, where colonialism ruled for generations. As Queen of Dawa Grand-Barabi in Cote d'Ivoire, this is something I've increasingly sought to address on African soil. The ghosts of empires haunt their ability to access the financial tools for people to become economically secure. They force billions of people around the world to live on less than $7 a day. This petition seeks to change just that. We are demanding economic justice. And nations can deliver on it by first acknowledging the impacts of colonialism. Those who are willing to be so brave will also conduct equity audits of current contracting, investment, and infrastructure practices. They would also be willing to pass legislation to ensure demographic equity is achieved when it comes to spending. This is how we close economic gaps. Consider this. This IMF projection says closing gender labor gaps alone can increase the GDP in some countries by 35%. Yes, 35%. The stubbornness or the fear of many to exclude women has stunted their economy, and it's just bad for business. Now, I know this may get a little uncomfortable in the room, but I have to address fear. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. But don't worry, I'm gonna wrap it all up in a bow, and everybody's gonna be fine when we leave here. Whether you are in Atlanta, Georgia, or Johannesburg, South Africa, white communities have seen the rise of Black, Latino, or Asian communities and shuddered. They see our growing buying power, our degrees, our home ownership as a threat to the power or the wealth they've held for generations. Perhaps some even fear we are secretly meeting in a room somewhere about how we can do to them what their ancestors did to ours. Let me tell you, I have never been in, let alone heard of any such meeting. What I have been in are discussions about how fear has gotten us to this point. And it has forced me to really think about how do we address this? How do we cool this rhetoric that has become violent and weaponize DEI as a threat to that power? My suggestion is this: we move forward with DE instead of DEI. And DE is demographic equity. Demographic equity simply states the demographics of the people must match the demographics of the contracts, the investing, and the funding allocations as a whole. You've heard me speak now about demographic equity, but I want to close with what that means and how it can truly deliver economic justice for all. You know, I like to call Atlanta one of my hometowns, where approximately half of the population is made up of what we identify as Black people. And minority population of this city is well over 60%. Well-intentioned diversity mandates of the past call that 30% of our contracts have to go to minority vendors. I hope you guys kept track of these different numbers. It's all gonna make sense in a moment. But how is that justice for a city when the mandates do not match the proportions? We must move away from old policies and be more flexible on how we can really enact justice. What was justice then may not be justice now. What I love about demographic equity is that it's just simple, fair funding. It protects the interests of those who fear losing power and wealth and gives access to those who have been denied it. This is good for the white Kentucky coal miner as it is the Latino California farm worker. Demographic equity means delivering the resources, the financial support at a scale that reflects the population. This is something that we can all get behind. Matter of fact, I'd be curious on what Edward Bloom's thoughts are on this. This is what freedom can look like for the 21st century. This is how we move away from fear and embrace success for all. The petition is just a start. What we must do in this room today, tomorrow, and the days to come is to push our leaders all over the globe to answer these demands. Our bravery in this moment is the antidote to fear. And I know we have the vision, the determination, and the courage to bring about economic freedom, which is fearless freedom. Thank you.